Terrified as I was of the alien soldiers currently approaching my craft, still I couldn't bring myself to stop staring at them. Aliens. Real aliens. Finally getting a good look at the approaching group, my eyes and brain raced in conjunction to catalog their features. As a child, it'd always been my dream to explore the stars and make contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. However, as I grew to learn more and more about the physics of space travel, I'd ultimately realize that my dream was essentially impossible. We weren't anywhere close to the level of technology necessary to properly explore even our own galactic zip code, let alone faraway systems. In the end, I resolved that if I couldn't experience that myself, I wanted to make sure that eventually someone could, even if that someone wouldn't be born for another 1,000 years. Looking back on it from the window of my exploration vessel, maybe I'd been just a tad pessimistic about that number. Unfortunately, the old sci-fi trope of alien animal groups resembling those on Earth didn't seem to hold true here. These people, whoever they were, definitely wouldn't fit well with any of our categories. Small, icy blue scales shaped like flat pebbles adorned their necks. Their arms, by contrast, were decorated by what appeared to be white feathers, vestigial wings, perhaps. While the specimens on either side of the scientist were concealed largely by body armor and helmets, the one between them provided a much more detailed view of their anatomy. Slight lumps of fat on the chest area suggested mammary glands of some description. Yet another middle finger to my understanding of evolutionary biology, but at least a helpful middle finger, given that it pointed me toward this alien's sex. Atop her head, a crest of similarly pristine feathers stretched down like human hair, concealing one of her, presumably two, ears which resembled in passing those of a fantasy elf, but curvier and with two prongs at the top instead of one. Just a few paces shy of my vessel's door, the trio halted in place. It looked like the scientist was trying to persuade the two soldiers of something. Both of them seemed rather hesitant to follow her orders, but after a brief exchange of what I could best describe as organized birdsong, the pair reluctantly stepped aside and allowed the researcher to continue her approach unaccompanied. Switching my gaze over to one of the ship's cameras for a better view on this approaching stranger, a sudden wave of panicked realization washed over me. I am first contact. Shit. How do you even greet an alien? Smiling was definitely a no-go. Even back on Earth, most animals would see that as a threat. With my luck, they'd probably mistake it for me having some sort of predatory nature and just gun me down then and there. That being said, waving may not be the best play either. I didn't know if these guys had sharp talons, but startling them seemed like a pretty bad first test of that. Still, what gestures in the animal kingdom are universally non-threatening? Sifting through my slowly defrosting memory, I recalled at one point learning about the habits of gorillas and how to survive meeting one in the wild. I found weird things on the web growing up. In social animals, lowering oneself is usually a gesture of submission. So, with little time to ponder anything else, I turned toward the door of my ship and offered a cordial kneel as the door was pried open by some sort of mechanical lever, probably hydraulic for the sheer strength, to allow inside a real, in-the-flesh alien. For whatever it was worth, she didn't seem displeased by my gesture of surrender. More, confused than anything, in fact.
Tor a key treat?
The nonsense noise hung around me like some form of inquiry, but naturally, I hadn't the foggiest fucking clue what it meant, so instead, I elected to remain silent. Approaching me with visible trepidation, the alien repeated its question to me, but again, I couldn't risk responding in a way that would displease her. With my eyes cast downward, I saw that she wasn't wearing shoes, but instead left on display her four-toed talons that looked like they could easily slash an artery if swung right.
Dararakan terit.
The sudden sensation of a warm, finger-like appendage pressing my chin upward by its foreclaw sent my danger-detecting instincts into overdrive. Disregarding entirely the claw's bluntness and gentle movement, I recoiled away from its owner with a short burst of backward movement. Naturally, being part of the graceful primate lineage and a member of their most intelligent species by far, I was easily able to evade this danger by elegantly falling flat on my ass and, in a stroke of brilliance, slamming my spine against the steel wall behind me. This scientist seemed every bit as frazzled as I was with the encounter, having herself collided with the shuttle door in the midst of our mutual confusion. A light hiccuping noise emanated from the alien's throat as she too toppled over onto the ground. Somewhat assured by this interaction that my life was not, in fact, about to end, I slowly eased myself upright and with gentle, telegraphed steps approached the mysterious alien woman. Noting my sudden advance upon her prone form, the stranger observed me first with eyes full of fear, followed shortly thereafter by curiosity when I knelt down once more to offer her a hand up. To my surprise, no further coaxing was required to convince this mysterious creature. Carefully wrapping her claws around my outstretched hand, the alien allowed me to help her to her feet. From outside the ship, I hadn't actually noticed how tall she was beyond vaguely human-sized. Now, inside the ship and stood before her, it became rather apparent to me that this bird-lizard lady, despite being at least 30 centimeters, a foot shorter than the guards outside, still had a few centimeters on me. Evolving in lower gravity'll do that to you, I guess. "Hello." I breathed anxiously, shaking her talon up and down with my friendliest close-lipped smile before slowly relinquishing it back to the alien, whose look of absolute fascination identified her as a scientist at heart. Pointing to myself for emphasis, I continued. "I am a human."
Human.
"Yes." I pumped my fist triumphantly, nodding my head up and down in frantic affirmation of her attempt to pronounce a human word. This alien researcher seemed at least open to communicating with me, so that was definitely a good sign. This being said, I was beginning to understand why universal translators were such integral sci-fi tech. Actually, being able to understand each other would take a while unless I found some way to expedite the process. Pointing a claw to her own chest, and with it held there spoke a single foreign word which I presumed to be her name.
Vavi.
Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more original content. New chapters and standalone stories uploaded weekly.